What is going on, everyone? You are very welcome to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast, coming to you on this October bank holiday Monday after another bumper weekend of NFL action. Jimmy English joined by Conor Tate, and delighted to welcome to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast for the first time the newest member of the team, James Kellett. Lads, lots to get through. Obviously, we had the time change yesterday, clocks going back, so the NFL started an hour early, which was great. I know my missus wasn't thrilled that she was subjected to 7 hours of red zone an hour early. We didn't stay up for the game, the late game, unfortunately. I did think I would make the Steelers-Packers game Sunday Night Football. I didn't have it in me. Such are the joys of getting increasingly older. But I want to know, guys, did you stay up for it, James? I know you're more hardcore than I am at this stage.
Yeah, I did. I stayed up for the game. I think the hour earlier helped a lot as well. And my dad is a Packers fan, so he wanted to watch a bit of it, but he wasn't around for the comeback. It was a bit late for him as well. So, but yeah, it was nice to have it earlier. What a meltdown by the Steelers towards the end. I'm sure you weren't too happy with that, Jimmy.
No, I mean, I think we'll start with this. We'll start at the end and work backwards from yesterday's games. Look, I watched the game in 40 this morning, and just the thing that stuck out to me the biggest, and I know Twist is probably listening, is how the highest paid defense in the NFL continues to underperform when it matters. I think like the amount of missed tackles just drove me absolutely mad. You had lads falling off tackles left and right. Couldn't wrap up Josh Jacobs, couldn't wrap up Tucker Kraft. We got absolutely no pressure at all on Jordan Love. Defense ended with 0 sacks. Okay, we had a couple of tackles for loss, but TJ Watt went missing the entirety of the game. I honestly don't know what happened. We seem to be getting worse and worse every week. Tucker Kraft, I mean, 7 receptions for 150 odd yards and 2 touchdowns on National Tight Ends Day. It just was a very disappointing performance overall from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only lone bright spot being the leg of Boswell. I mean, he really is keeping the Steelers alive with this season.
Yeah, look, I've been a strong advocate for Pittsburgh this whole season so far. I'm waiting for the Pittsburgh defense to come alive, and it just hasn't. In these past 2 weeks, letting Jamar Chase go off like he did and set a franchise record, and Jordan Love had a string midway through the second half last night where he completed 20 passes consecutively without the ball hitting the turf. That's mad. Last time Packers quarterback did that was 2007, Brett Favre.
Yeah.
So, the Steelers are setting this nasty trend of letting teams get very, very good runs against them offensively. And now I'd be foolish to not look at it and be concerned. They were kind of riding the wave against some lesser teams to get to that 4-1 record, but now that's 2 very poor defensive performances. However, take nothing away from the Green Bay Packers, who went into a difficult place to play football and came out again the victor. They look the business.
Yeah, I would have thought that the Steelers would have been more solid on defense this season, as you said. It looked like the pieces were there, but the question on my mind at the moment is possibly the age and number of years that some of the bigger names have played. Is that possibly a factor? Because if you look at some of their fourth quarters, conceding 17 in the fourth against the Seahawks, 15 against the Vikings, 13 against the Bengals, and 21 last night, it's very poor fourth quarter performance compared to earlier in the games where they are seemingly more resilient. That might be something that is playing a part, I think, at the moment.
The age thing is definitely a good point, James, and that concerned me when we started picking up free agents in the secondary, especially the likes of Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey. Look, Darius Slay won a Super Bowl last season with Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not taking away from that. Jalen Ramsey is a future Hall of Famer, multiple Pro Bowler, and a legend in his own right. And like he's actually been quite solid. Apart from he got burnt a couple of times against Jamar Chase, but that's going to happen to most DBs in the league. So I don't think that takes anything away from that performance. But Darius Slay had an absolutely inexcusable missed tackle in the first quarter where he completely whiffed on the runner. And I do think it's a game of attrition, right? Your body's worn down. If you're not fresh going into the fourth quarter, you're going to be in trouble. What concerned me the more so than that really was the absolute lack of a pass rush. We got into Jordan Love's face a couple of times, but like TJ Watt just went absolutely missing for the entire game. I think Nick Herbig actually had more pressures. So, and like you look at the stretch of the games that the Steelers have ahead, you have the Colts coming into Acrisure Stadium next Sunday. I am so worried about this game now. I mean, I wasn't worried before the season because it was like the Colts, who cares? But now the Colts are the best team in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor is absolutely rolling. Had another 3 touchdown performance against the Titans there on Sunday. Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, he's absolutely balling out. So, like, I'm actually terrified that the Colts are going to come into Acrisure next weekend and absolutely roll the Steelers.
When the Colts don't score 38 points, it's a disappointing day for them this year. So you should be nervous, right? I think it was summed up beautifully last night on that duck to Tucker Kraft at the start of the third quarter that he came down with, and everyone was completely disoriented. And he went 50 yards. And I think it was Deshaun Elliott went down on that play as well. And that was kind of the turning point because the Packers had the missed field goal going in a half. Steelers were up by 9. All was good. And Kraft came down with that one, and then he kept coming down with everything else after that and rumbling into the end zone. So I think there's valid concern now for Pittsburgh in the last 2 showings that whilst they might still win this division due to the lack of competency in the AFC North this year, they're not looking like a true contender in the AFC at the moment unless they turn it around.
James, one question that's being posed about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is the lack of a true number 2 wide receiver. And that was blatantly obvious last night because when Rodgers went to anyone but DK Metcalf, the results were pretty disappointing. And I know Roman Wilson, he did stand out. He had 4 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown that was initially ruled not a touchdown, but upon review, the expedited review, they did rule it to be complete. But like, the trade deadline's approaching now, November 4th. Did the Steelers go out and get is there anyone on the market? I don't think there's anyone stands out on the market right now that the Steelers can go and get. Or do they keep doing what they have been doing and Aaron Rodgers relying increasingly on his tight ends, which has had some success, but I mean, just after DK Metcalf, there's no real true weapon there for Rodgers to target when he needs to.
Yeah, I think it's probably something that they should consider doing, but I don't see it happening. The fact that they let Pickens go as well,
and he's balling out in Dallas now, which really pisses me off, to be honest with you. Seeing him
seems like a huge mistake.
Oh, look.
But I do think that there is a few options out there. I think Waddle is not an option anymore after last night. It seems like the Dolphins are still going to stick with McDaniel, and they're going to see what happens this season with Tua as well. I think Jacoby Myers is probably the best option that would be available for something reasonable. But again, I don't think the Steelers will go for that. I'm surprised that, I know you mentioned tight ends, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of Jonnu Smith. I know Arthur Smith brought him in and he has worked with him in the past. And I think through the first 3 or 4 weeks, he had some of the most designed plays for a tight end in the league, but Rodgers hadn't gone to him that often. Then he did start to a little bit, but I'm still kind of surprised that he hasn't relied upon him more heavily. I don't know, is it a relationship thing where sometimes you just don't click with a certain player and you look to somebody else, but I feel like he could be someone they would look to lean on a bit more, and they could probably get some good results from it because he is a very good player when you kind of tailor your game to him a little bit more.
We did a whole piece on Pittsburgh utilizing their tight ends a few weeks ago in that great game where he went off, and he got Washington involved and Johnny Smith was involved in that game too. And Conor Hayward, I'm not supposed to know who the 3rd tight end of Pittsburgh Steelers is, yet I know it's
Conor Hayward's their 4th tight end now, to be honest with you.
4th tight end, right?
Jonathan Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and then Conor Hayward, who's technically a H-back.
Exactly. So but Aaron Rodgers throughout the years has utilized tight ends. So, they're rich in tight ends, but, the question is, TJ Hawkinson, does maybe he go? Minnesota are talking about shopping him after their last performance. Jordan Addison, maybe he goes because he's in a contract year.
I don't think Jordan Addison goes after the way he's been the number 1 receiver, really, in terms of scoring at Minnesota.
But are you going to pay them both?
No, I suppose.
Jefferson has a huge contract there in Minnesota. So
I don't know if the Steelers part with that.
It's there's options out there for Pittsburgh, but they need to make the move quick because it's coming.
James, you mentioned Jalen Waddle there, and Jonnu Smith, obviously a former Dolphins tight end. So I think that's a nice segue into one of the other really surprising results in the early window. There was a lot of disparity in the early window in terms of scoring, and not really many competitive games happening. It was quite a boring early and late window, to be honest with you. And I know, Conor, you want to touch on the unbalanced nature of the NFL for recent weeks, and we will get to that. But I feel like the Dolphins getting the key win over Atlanta yesterday, that was absolutely like I honestly I had a post ready to go for if the Dolphins lost that game, Mike McDaniels was getting fired. He was gone. There was no way he could have survived another loss, and I think the team sensed that. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa, 4 touchdowns, looking like his old self. First game in after a 3-game losing streak. James, how important was it for the entire team morale, for Tua, for Mike McDaniels, for the organization, for the Dolphins to get that win against the Falcons?
I think it was incredibly important, but it's something I really did not see coming
No.
based on how they had played in recent weeks. But then also the off the field, obviously there's a lot around the Dolphins consistently off the field, murmurings and things in the media. But the recent press conferences of both McDaniel and Tua would definitely not strike confidence into you if you're a Dolphins fan. Even last week, Tua coming out and saying that, he's kind of a smaller guy, he can't see some of his receivers and things like that.
Yeah.
You're not expecting a big performance off the back of that. But then he comes out, kind of no nonsense, just over 200 yards, but 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. Waddle nearly crosses 100 yards. It's massive, and I like Mike McDaniel. I think what he's done with Tua has been very, very good. There's a lot of talk about culture and things like that, and maybe you need a more hard-nosed coach in there and things. But that didn't work for Tua before with Flores, so he's nurtured him in the right way. And I think if they have another few wins, I don't know what happens at the end of the season, because I'm not sure if Tua and McDaniel are a long-term partnership that will bring success in the NFL, but it's also something that if they go out now and win, 7 games by the end of the season, I'm not saying that's looking likely, but if they did manage to do that, then do they stick with them, or do they just bite the bullet and say, look, we have to end this now. It was a good run and we move on. But certainly it was good for the morale. And on the Falcons, on the other hand, are an incredibly confusing team. I'm not sure what's going on over there in Atlanta.
The only thing more erratic than the Miami Dolphins this season is the Atlanta Falcons. Like the Falcons took down the Bills on Monday Night Football. They beat Washington earlier on in the season, put up 34 points. They went into Minneapolis and won by 16 in week 2 on Sunday night. And yet they throw out a performance like that, and then they get shut out by Carolina. You have no idea what you're going to get with the Atlanta Falcons. The Kirk Cousins led up Atlanta Falcons, by the way, because Michael Penix didn't start the game yesterday.
I think we've seen the end of Kirk Cousins in possibly as an NFL quarterback, and I swear to God, if the Steelers go and take him next year, if Rodgers retires and the Steelers pick up Kirk Cousins, I will quit being the Steelers fan. I'm putting it on record now. If we do that, I am done.
Kirk has a decision to make, because if Kirk just wants the money through his contract, that's him done. Nobody's going to pay him elite money. But if someone gives him a 1-year, $10 million deal, and someone might put their hand out for that, and Kirk might decide, you know what, I want to play.
Kirk
He's
not that old. He's only 36, 37. Like, he still has a few good years.
In quarterback terms, Kirk has a year or 2 left if the Achilles is healthy. And if you watch Quarterback, the Netflix series last year, he was playing well until he got crocked in a game. Mm-hmm. And his shoulder got done. And then his other shoulder got done. He was banjaxed. He was like Carson Wentz on Thursday night. He literally couldn't throw the ball. And his motivation is not only money, although his agent has done a brilliant job for him throughout the years, but he is also highly motivated by his kids, which are now, I think, 8 and 6, getting to see their dad play. That's one of his highest motivators. So there is, maybe Kirk Cousins comes back and plays for next to no money, next to no money next year to give his kids an experience of watching their dad lead an NFL team one more time. Potentially. I don't know. We'll see.
I could see him playing for one of your guys' teams next season.
Don't even talk about it. I had the exact same thought there recently. Like, hopefully Aaron Rodgers will stick around, because he honestly, and I said this almost every podcast we've had, and he has exceeded all expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers this way. He looks better and better each week. I think the way he's
healthy,
he's still able to roll out of the pocket with that mobility, extend the plays, direct traffic down the field, and find receivers. Now, obviously a second wide receiver or some better tight ends might be more helpful. But I think Aaron Rodgers is playing the best football that he can right now, given the weapons at his disposal and giving the rest of the Steelers offense, the run game and the offensive line. So fingers and toes and everything crossed that we stick with Rodgers another season, if he wants, of course, and don't have to go out and get another free agent quarterback. Conor, speaking of the Minnesota Vikings there and Kirk Cousins' time with the Vikings, let's throw it back just briefly to Thursday Night Football, because it is quite evident that Carson Wentz's shelf life as the Vikings starting quarterback has come to a close. I mean, I watched the highlights again, obviously Friday morning, and he was just so ineffective at quarterback. Look, he has a good connection with Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson's gone really quiet since Carson Wentz. I don't think he's scored a touchdown since Carson Wentz has played as quarterback for the Vikings, whereas Jordan Addison has kind of gone off. But I think it's time for JJ McCarthy to come back and try and save the Vikings season.
I'm going to preface this by saying that Carson Wentz is a warrior. Carson Wentz should not have been on the field on Thursday night to start with. He certainly shouldn't have been on the field after the first quarter and there on after. I mean, the guy is banjaxed in the nicest possible way. He's broken. Have you seen the strapping on his arm? Like, he looks like Bionic Man. And, just absolute respect and kudos to Carson Wentz, because he was thrown out there as a sacrificial lamb in an abject, despondent, horrific performance from the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I don't want to watch the Minnesota Vikings right now. That sucks. The team is terrible. Defensively, they're not keeping us in games. They're getting run over. The secondary is not bailing us out. And offensively, we can't get anything going. He should not have been in the game. Whether McCarthy is healthy or not, there's a clip of him because someone comes out of the sideline and McCarthy jumps over him. The ankle looks fine. Who knows how JJ McCarthy is health-wise? But Carson Wentz should not be in the game. Full stop. You go to your next guy and your next guy and your next guy. There's always somebody who can come in. Play wildcat for the game if you have to. If you really don't trust Max Brosmer to come in.
I think Aaron Jones was a former high school quarterback. I mean, that could be your next option at quarterback.
It's unbelievable. Like, it's just brutal. It's the worst coach game I've seen from the Minnesota Vikings in the last decade. And that's saying something, because there's been some pretty poor performances. We nearly had a shutout against the Raiders a few years ago. We won that game 3-0. I thought that was the low point of the Kevin O'Connell era. But he's now 3.5 seasons in, and that is by far and away the lowest point in Kevin O'Connell's tenure in Minnesota. It's bad. It's got to get better, and it's not going to get any easier, because it's the Lions coming up this week, and it's going to be JJ McCarthy back in, whether the ankle's good to go or not, because there's just no other choice. And after that, it's the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson will be back just in time for that. I can assure you.
The NFC.
That's going to be.
Sorry, James. Go ahead.
I was just going to find it difficult to know what would happen if JJ gets in and he not injury wise, but if he gets in and plays poorly in general for like 2 or 3 weeks. Where do the Vikings go then? Because
you ride the season.
It's just such a difficult situation. Then his future is in doubt, and then next year, what are you going to do? I know he was seen as maybe the future, and now it's kind of looking like you should have given Rodgers that contract that he wanted when he wanted to just play on the dome for a season.
Sam Darnold walk. They let Daniel Jones
was a big
walk,
mistake.
And they gave Aaron Rodgers no time of day. They had 3 excellent options at quarterback, and they put all their eggs in the JJ McCarthy basket. So whatever happens this year, you have to roll with that.
I actually forgot till I saw a picture earlier in the week that the Vikings had had Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones on the roster at one point. Was it last season?
Yeah, last season.
Yeah. And that's just, I look at the success that those quarterbacks are having now as the respective starters. It looks like a massive mismanagement by the Vikings front office in letting those two walk, almost as big as the mess that the New York Giants have created. Speaking of other teams who absolutely had to get wins yesterday, apart from the Miami Dolphins, lads, the New York Jets, 1-7, getting their first, Aaron Glenn's first win as a head coach. Justin Fields' first win of the season, 39-38 over the Cincinnati Bengals. That was some game. I mean, Breece Hall's touchdown pass, the trick play towards the end to put them ahead. It was just special to watch, James. And look, I love Justin Fields. He was his Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback last season. I had a lot of time for Justin Fields. I think he's been really kind of much maligned by the media and by the various teams that he's been in. I read a quote from his press conference afterwards where he was saying that earlier in the week he came around crying in his closet. I mean, you really have to feel for the guy from the amount of abuse that he's gotten from the New York media. So I really, really am delighted for the Jets that they got this win, especially against the Bengals, which helps me as a Steelers fan.
Yeah, I think that it was really important for the Jets, but also for Fields, as you mentioned. Like I felt incredibly sorry for him. First of all, when you saw Woody Johnson come out in the media during the week and basically slate him and blame the losses on him instead of on Aaron Glenn. And then for your owner to kind of be speaking about you in that way, and then you have to deal with the media after having a horrendous game in the London game, really, really poor. And then to go out yesterday and lead them on that fourth quarter win the way he did, it was really, really excellent. He relied on Breece Hall a lot. Breece Hall got going. I think that was smart by Glenn too, because he knew that the Bengals could not stop the run.
Yeah.
The Bengals defense is very porous, but the Jets put up 502 yards in total. Really, really incredible stuff. And Glenn, for all the issues maybe he had in game mismanagement of that in that London game against the Broncos, he managed the game very well last night, and he knew the situation that he was in. He played situational football, going for 2 points twice, and both times converting it. And that was the winner in the end, because they ended up winning by just a single point.
Yeah.
So despite their defense being porous, despite all the issues for Fields, they did incredibly well to see out that game and to play the situation in front of them.
And that was something that they actually failed to do in London, was establish the run. And they didn't get any, I think they had minus 1 or 2 yards actually on total offense in the first half in London. So taking the pressure off Fields, get the run game going, and not just Breece Hall as well. There were other running backs involved there as well. Justin Fields did have 244 yards passing, 21 of 32, and a total 254 rushing yards from the Jets as well. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that the turnaround is completely on. I think they'd need a miracle now if they wanted to make the playoffs, especially in the AFC East at this stage with the Patriots there. But Conor, just overall, like a very kind of positive, uplifting story for the Jets.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. How about Justin Fields? Yeah, like an owner, you hire a head coach. That's who you go at. You don't go at the quarterback of the team. As a quarterback, you need to take responsibility, which Justin Fields has done all year. But for your owner to throw you under the bus like that, and then during the week, because Tyrod Taylor was hurt, and Aaron Glenn's asked who's going to start at quarterback, but we're going to have a quarterback on Sunday.
Like, I thought that was strange.
We're going with Justin. We brought him in at the start of the year. Okay, he wasn't playing well, but we're going to back him. We got him. Justin Fields scored 39 points. That 2-point attempt was awesome at the end of the game to make it a 6-point game when he's getting wrestled down and he's sidearming that ball. Like, that's brilliant, man. Like, way to go, Justin Fields, and way to go to the New York Jets, because they were completely down and out. And, this season is probably not going to amount to much, but that's a big win for some guys, put on some really good tape. So, kudos to them.
AFC East picture, though, right now, it comes down to the Bills and the Patriots, though, really, doesn't it? The Bills got back on track as well yesterday with a big performance over Carolina, who had looked pretty good previously before Bryce Young getting injured. Andy Dalton obviously fitting in yesterday, didn't have a great game at all. Josh Allen and the Bills getting back to winning ways, reestablishing their dominance after a couple of worrying performances. Look, James Cook, 19 carries, 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was an absolute beast. He's definitely able to shot at some sort of award at the end of the season. I know Josh Allen had some records as well. I forget the exact, I think 42 games with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. But look, just a real kind of morale booster there, James, I think, for the Bills, and putting them back into the conversation in the AFC after they had gone quite quiet as well.
Yeah, it was a big game. I think it came at the perfect time for them, because you saw how important Bryce Young is actually to this Panthers team. And at the start of last season, you wouldn't have thought you'd be saying this at this point. I was really impressed with how Canales managed to nurture him into that role last season. And then this season, he seems to be very important to the team. They were on a nice run. They had won 3 games in a row. I think, of course, you don't want to lose games. You don't want to say, okay, we're going to lose this one. But if there's any game they'll accept that it wasn't our day. You don't have your starting quarterback and you're coming against the Bills team off a bye who really need a win to get things right. I think the Panthers will be okay. But a really big win, as you said, for the Bills. I think 11.4 yards per carry for James Cook. He's been really important. I think after last season, how many touchdowns he had, there was a lot of questions whether that would be sustainable or not heading into the new season, but he's really bailed them out. Allen has had some poorer games than were expected of him this season, although he's been amazing as usual. He has such a high standard.
Exactly.
It's actually been Cook that has shone for them and really helped them out. And yesterday, just handing the rock off to him 19 times, and he did the job, did everything they needed, and they blew the Panthers away in the end.
I think the problem, Conor, with having such lofty expectations for the likes of Mahomes and for Josh Allen and for all these star quarterbacks is when they do have dips or down days or, lesser performances, the media and everyone starts getting on them. Whereas in reality, it's just to be expected, really. I mean, if you're consistently playing at such a high level and you are this superstar level player, you can't be 100% perfect the whole time. There are going to be drops off in performance, but I think it demonstrates the resilience of these guys when they can take the losses, regroup, and come back and have those incredible performances. I mean, Josh Allen completely diced up the Panthers yesterday, relying on the likes of Shakir and his tight ends as well. And then they're right back into it now, right off into playoff contention as we approach the halfway point of the season next week, week 9 coming down the tracks.
This had a Bills blowout win written all over it before kickoff. Week 8, coming off 2 losses, beat up Carolina with a backup quarterback coming in. Yeah, Buffalo's going to steamroll this one by 30 points. On that point of quarterbacks getting overly scrutinized when they're really, really good, it's in the territory. It comes with the position. And yes, Josh Allen had 2 subpar games, but nobody talked about benching him, right, at all. Spencer Rattler had 2 subpar games after a really good start to the season. He went back to the bench yesterday.
Yeah, but Spencer Rattler and Josh Allen are 2 very different quarterbacks, though.
But what I'm saying is that with the place of being an elite quarterback and earning that status comes the pressure of having to perform every single week or getting in trouble with the media. Whereas Spencer Rattler, you literally have to perform every week or you're out. You're back on the bench. So that's the difference. Just quarterback is the toughest position in all of sports. I've been saying this since the very start. And the media, everything you do in the NFL, from whether you turn up early or late to meetings or whether you greet the fans, or everything is a job interview at quarterback, not just throwing the football. So that's the position Josh Allen is in, and he's an MVP for a reason.
Let's just touch quickly on the other team, the other good team in the AFC East. The New England Patriots are quietly 6-2, and they're right smack bang in the middle of the conversation for a playoff spot in a couple of months' time. Another strong outing for Drake May and the Patriots. Again, like Drake May, they started off slow, but then they ended up blowing out the Browns. Myles Garrett, you have to really feel for him. As much as I don't like Myles Garrett because of obviously the history between himself and the Pittsburgh Steelers, he had 5 sacks, which set the single game record for the franchise yesterday. And you saw him on the sidelines when he got pulled, like how frustrated he was. I mean, that has to be tough, James, to watch, to have that such a dominant effect on the game, and for your team just to be absolutely useless otherwise. I mean, imagine being Myles Garrett stuck in that Browns, and you could have left. You could have left in the offseason. You were threatening to leave, but you chose to stay for the money.
Yeah, I actually have zero sympathy for him personally because he chose to stay for the money.
Yeah.
You signed up for this.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he was signing up for, and he said he had heard the plan of what was going to happen at quarterback. What was the plan? What was the plan that they told him? That they were going to draft Dylan Gabriel and that they were going to bring in Joe Flacco and not stick with him? What was this plan that he had been told? The plan was, we're going to pay you like crazy, and look, from there we'll see what happens. He signed up for it, and I don't have sympathy for him at this point because, yes, he's an excellent player, freak athlete, and deserves all the plaudits for his on-the-field play, but every week he's going to get asked this question of, how does it feel that you play so well and then your team is so poor on offense? That's what you signed up for. How does it feel that you're never going to
win it? You're never going to win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, ever. Like,
Yeah,
I
he was
couldn't
also
agree
he was
more.
also he was also the first player to reach 111 sacks under the age of 30. He now leads that category as well. So he is a game wrecker. But the problem is that nobody else on that team can do anything, basically.
I couldn't agree more with James. And what I have nothing left to add on that. I absolutely zero sympathy. Good for him. He got his bag.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna leave it on that note, because the less time devoted to Miles Garrett in this podcast, the better. I think the biggest kind of storyline from yesterday, obviously, and James, as a Giants fan, I apologize ahead of this segment because I know it's going to hurt you deeply and personally. But young Cam Skattebo suffering a freak injury against the Philadelphia Eagles in Lincoln Financial Field, caught a pass, was tackled awkwardly by Zach Bond on an alleged hip drop tackle. Now I watched it back. I thought the tackle was okay. It wasn't overly aggressive. I think Skattebo's foot just got caught in turf, and you saw. I mean, Scott Hansen warned us all in Red Zone that they were going to show us, and some viewers might find it disturbing. And I physically recoiled when I saw Cam Skattebo's ankle the wrong way, like pointing where it should have been pointing. Now, obviously, look, it's a dislocated ankle. I thought it would be a lot worse, but he's out indefinitely. So the Giants are in real trouble now because they've already lost Malik Neighbors to a season-ending knee injury. He blew his knee out. Jackson Dart has played a blinder as a rookie this season in relief for Russell Wilson. But I think a large part of Dart's success was the fact that he had his sidekick in Cam Skattebo, who could do it all. But now they're in dire straits, really.
Yeah, I think it was horrible to watch, as you mentioned. It was so hard to see that as a fan of sport, but in general, you don't want to see someone getting hurt, but especially not in that way where you could see how much pain that would cause somebody. But in general, for the Giants right now, it's been this kind of situation for quite a while where you get a little bit of a head of steam and there's injuries derail a lot. Now, the Giants aren't exactly a good football team. The defense is absolutely horrendous. I put that down to Shane Bowen as the defensive coordinator. He couldn't scheme his way out of a wet paper bag for my 2 cents on it. But I think Jackson Dart has helped a lot. And then obviously, as you mentioned, you see that Neighbors injury. Now you see the Skattebo injury. In previous seasons, when Daniel Jones looked like he might be getting it together a little bit, he relied on Saquon a lot. Then Saquon got injured. Then Andrew Thomas got injured. And there was no offensive line. This season, the offensive line is actually much improved. And the offensive line coach, Carmen Bursillo, has done a great job. Illuminor has been great. And Thomas, when he's fit, he's probably the best left tackle in the league, in my opinion. He's not allowed any hits on Dart since he's come back in week 3. So I think Dart has been a big part of this. But then, like you said, you lose Skattebo and you lost Neighbors. We don't really have anybody else there to lean on as a team.
No.
Theo Johnson at tight end is not good enough. He cannot catch the ball. There's so many drops he has in every game that are just not acceptable. And then you're looking at Jalen Hyatt, who was supposed to be the deep threat in the team, and he didn't even get on the field yesterday. So all of these things add up, and it's just not a good look. I think it's another season gone, and I think it will definitely be the end of the road for Brian Daboll and most likely Joe Shane at the end of the season too, I would say.
I think Conor as well, Brian Daboll knows that because he was losing his rag on the sideline yesterday. Now, to a certain extent, you can't blame him, but it's just obviously there was a couple of highly questionable calls that went the Eagles' way against the Giants. But even the amount of scrutiny that's been on New York in recent weeks with the fines announced during the week for violating the return to play protocol, going into the blue tent. That's meant to be an independent, coach-free zone for players who are and trying to put pressure on the players to come back out of the team effectively. That's what they were doing. Let's not beat around the bush on that. So, I mean, the Giants they're in all sorts of trouble now at this stage, really.
Getting to be a head coach in the NFL is a privilege. Getting to be a head coach in New York City is an even greater privilege. And with that comes more media attention and scrutiny. So it's just not been of a high enough professional standard from Brian Daboll across the board, in my opinion. So I think it will be the end of him. There were some egregious calls against the Giants that all went Philadelphia's way, and they all should have gone New York's way.
The tush push that was blatant.
Well,
the entire NFL community around the world could see that was a fumble. That ball was out clean. It was ruled that his forward progress was stopped. There was no whistle. Absolutely, we watched the replay. There was no whistle. That was a fumble and a recovery. End of story. And it should have been Giants' ball.
On a side note from that, Cam Skattebo is going to come back because medical care is incredible nowadays, and he's going to be back on the field next year. He's a great player. For the 2 games against Philadelphia that the New York Giants have next year, I'm getting Cam Skattebo ready to go on defense on 4th and short against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm lining him up in the A-gap, and I'm telling him, you go straight at Hurts. You jump over that line, you go for it, because you got to think, if you're a quarterback standing there, no matter how brave you are, if you see Cam Skattebo lined up there, and you know he's coming through, tell him on the first one, commit a 15-yard penalty. Roughen the passer, unnecessary roughness, whatever it takes. Just get that 4th and short out of Philadelphia's system. That's what I'm training Cam Skattebo to do, to come back and also play running back brilliantly like he's done. But the Giants are really hard done by, but I just don't think Dable's done a good enough job for the New York market to bring him back one more year.
Yeah, Cam Skattebo.
Yeah. He was given far too much time. Sorry to cut across you there, Jimmy. But he was given far too much time. I think, like last year, should have been the end of the line, at least for Shane Bowen, if not for Dable, and they brought him back. And the one note I also would have is that at least Tyrone Tracy is back healthy, because he's a very good running back, and he has good hands as well because he played receiver in college. So the Giants will have a little bit of relief there, but obviously not the same impact that Skattebo was having, but at least there is that positive.
Conor, something you mentioned earlier before we started, and something that I noticed especially yesterday in both the early and late windows, when you look at the Saints against the Buccaneers, the Colts taking on the Titans, and just generally was the lack of uneven games, I suppose, or the increase in lopsided results in the NFL right now, which is an interesting trend, and it's not making things really exciting if you're watching Red Zone and all your. It is boring. I was trying to find a more creative way to say boring, but you came right out and said it is boring.
Yeah, no, it's straight up boring. So I did some math here, and I went back through some of the scores, because I just remember the first few weeks of the season being absolutely electric, and I just remember the last couple of weeks just being straight up bored watching this stuff. And I've got the numbers down here. So you look at the average through week 1, just week 1 through the 16 games, the average margin of victory was 7.5 points. So that's a 1-score game. So in theory, each game is going to be a 1-score game. It's not going to work out like that, but they're all super tight, right? You compare that to yesterday's 12 games. Obviously, we have Monday night still to go this week. The average margin of victory was 18.2 points.
Yeah.
That's just not fun to watch. The only game that got witched yesterday was the Jets. Everything else was done. And even the ones that were close, like sort of close, Baltimore against Chicago. Chicago never looked like coming back in that game. San Francisco never looked like doing anything against Houston yesterday. It's a boring product right now. And I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's just a couple of down weeks in scheduling, or just a quirk. But yeah, it's not the product we all know and love at the moment.
I think personally it has to do with what you mentioned there, is that the fact that the first 4 or 5 weeks of the NFL were so frantic and so frenetic, and there was so much going on, and we were all like, what the hell is happening here? It's just been an absolutely mental start. And then you have players starting to get injured more and more because of obviously the physical nature of the game. And I think just, again, it comes back to what we've always been talking about. Our expectations are so high week in, week out for, these mental games, these 1-point games, these wild finishes, that when you kind of settle in, I think we've only kind of settled in now at the halfway point of the season to kind of humdrum games that it just happened that they've all kind of come together. So hopefully we'll kind of get back to the excitement. I mean, look, let's be honest, at the end of the day, the NFL is an entertainment sport. Like, it is. It's played for our entertainment. It's okay, yes, it's about the product on the field, and the product on the field affects, the outcome, etc. But ultimately, we tune in every Sunday to be entertained, right, James?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And another thing to add to the fact that it's probably more boring is because the number of flags recently, I haven't looked at the statistics behind this, but it just seems like so many
Yeah,
plays are being blown dead because of flags. There's been so many things miscalled as well. Like we
yeah,
mentioned in the Giants game, for example, there was a 65-yard Darius Slayton offensive pass interference call when he had a touchdown, a runaway from Quinyon Mitchell, and they were just basically
yeah,
at each other's hands, which is usually allowed to go, and
yeah.
often it goes against the defender. And that's just one example in a long list of calls
Missed.
that
Yeah,
are they're
I
not
agree.
needed, and it's causing the game to be
Yeah.
like you don't want to tune in to flag zone essentially instead of red zone. You're seeing flags constantly, and yeah, that's not good. And the NFL is greedy as well. They want games on a Thursday, a big game on a Thursday. They'd have a big game on a Friday if they could. They'd have a big
Mhm.
game on a Tuesday if they could. And the more diluted this schedule becomes, the more
Mm.
spread out the games are, then the more boring the Sunday product does become.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, a lot of questionable officiating going on, even missed calls, especially. There was an egregious offside missed against the Packers last night against the Steelers. I was roaring on my TV 7 this morning watching the game in 40. Yeah, I mean, look, I think hopefully we'll kind of get back to the excitement of the game we all love. Before we finish up, lads, Monday Night Football, we have the Commanders and the Chiefs. Big game on Monday Night Football tonight. Chiefs are back. Are the Chiefs back? I don't know. This is the debate we have every week. Are the Chiefs back? I mean, the Bills are definitely back. Let's nail our colours to the flag there. But some of the key talking points or the key kind of storylines for the Commanders and Chiefs tonight is lack of Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota is getting the start, but he does have the return of Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, and Deebo Samuel. And as for the Chiefs, they just need to keep throwing the ball down the field to Xavier Worthy and keep dinking and dunking. I think it's going to be a good game, James.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that the Chiefs are going to win. I think they'll win comfortably enough because we saw last weekend what they did against the Raiders. And not that the Commanders are in the same boat as the Raiders, but Marcus Mariota is somebody that Steve Spagnuolo will just be licking his lips to play against. He's going to give him an absolute nightmare tonight. And the Commanders, most of their offensive line has been quite good, but it's a new unit together. And the Chiefs will know how to play against them. I think they'll know how to give them hassle. They're one of the best defenses in the league. They've allowed, I think, the third least amount of points per game. And even against the Lions a few weeks ago, they only allowed it 17. That's led by Jared Goff and all his weapons. So I don't think Mariota is going to be able to maybe live up to the hype that this game would have had if it was Daniels versus Mahomes, which is disappointing for the
Yeah.
product. But again, the Chiefs they're starting to get into their flow again, and I think they'll
Mm-hmm.
be a force to be reckoned with come January.
Just like
Chiefs.
Carolina rolling
Sorry.
into Buffalo, feeling like a Buffalo blowout win. This feels like a comfortable Kansas City win tonight. On paper, it looks like this is going to be a comfortable, run-of-the-mill Week 8 Chiefs victory that we will not remember come playoff time at all, but a notch in the win column.
Just given the lack of Jaden Daniels at quarterback and Marcus Mariota being an aging quarterback, do the Commanders need to rely on the run here a bit more, James, just to kind of get things going? I mean, they have Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I can't even pronounce it. He's been looking good as a rookie, for the Chiefs. They also have Luke McCaffrey, the younger brother of Christian McCaffrey, at receiver. He's kind of been a kind of a hidden talent there. So I do agree it is going to be, look, it's the Chiefs are going to win this one. I mean, Spags is going to give Mariota fits with the blitzes, and he's going to blitz at least a third of amount of snaps. But do we think it'll be any sort of competition, or is it going to be just a complete Chiefs blowout in Monday Night Football?
I think you're right that they do need to rely on the run, but the Chiefs are so good against the run. They're so stout. When you have as good a D line as they have, then it's going to be very difficult for the Commanders to actually get that going. It's interesting, like that Spags is very selective when he does go for the blitz, and often I think we'll see tonight where they don't blitz on first and second down, and we see the Commanders struggling to get the yardage they need on a plenty of 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s, and then he will send the house at Marcus Mariota. And I think that will be the storyline tonight, really, for the game. A lot of third and longs and a lot of Mariota getting absolutely lit up, and I could see some sack fumbles or a couple of
Yeah.
interceptions where he needs to just get the ball out and force something to happen. Which, yeah, I think the Chiefs are really going to dominate. I really can't see it being close.
All right.
I think Washington will hang around, but I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be like one of the 6 p.m. kickoffs on Sunday where from the first quarter onward, it's going to be Kansas City wins. Whether it's 7 points or 10 points or 20, 25 points. It'll be a comfortable Kansas City win.
Well, there we go. Kansas City to get the win on Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. Another star player who is out with an injury, Jaden Daniels, there joining the long list of injured star power at the minute. Gents, we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time, James. Great to have you on. Conor, always a pleasure to see you. For people listening who will be at the Berlin game in a few weekends' time, keep an eye out for our own Conor Tate on the sidelines. We are officially going to have a Gaelic Gridiron presence there. So great to be attending the international games. And hopefully we'll be in Madrid as well the following weekend. Forgot to give our sponsors a shout out at the top of the show. So to the lads at Print My Pint, I do sincerely apologise. I'll say the name again, Print My Pint. Could not do it without their support. Make sure you check them out on the website, printmypint.ie, for your next wedding, birthday, or any sort of celebration. And look, I have a big Print My Pint here logo on my new Gaelic Gridiron hoodie. So there's an extra little shout out for the lads. Do give us a follow on social media if you are new to the podcast, and subscribe as well. And gents, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.